Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Trail Network podcast. Today, I am your host, Hilary Yang. In this episode, I sit down with the incredible Emily Hawgood for an amazing chat that spans her career in trail running, her background growing up in Zimbabwe, some of her recent race experiences, and how her attitude of living life with joy impacts her approach towards racing and towards life in general. Emily is a wonderful human, a good friend of mine, and I feel like my face just hurts from smiling after talking to her. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the pod. Our guest today has had a string of podium and top 10 finishes in some of the world's most competitive ultramarathons. She's had 4 top 10 finishes at Western States, second at CCC in 2023, and a pair of 6th place finishes at UTMB in 2022 and most recently in 2024. She's known for her joyous approach to life. And today I am so excited to chat with the one, the only Emily Hawgood. Welcome to the podcast, Em.
Thank you so much for having me on. I've been excited to chat with you.
Oh my gosh. I have to say you've been on the top of our dream guest for forever. And It's mostly just been a matter of nailing down our schedules, I feel like, with all the travel and races this summer.
Yeah.
And you've had a crazy summer. So maybe we'll just kick off with a little bit of a where are you right now and how are you feeling after the whirlwind of the summer? And then we'll get into all the things. But how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing so good. My cup is so full. Recovered after the last bout of travel, which is nice. And just kind of excited to chat with you. I think kind of reflect on the summer. I don't think I've taken a minute to kind of take it all in and soak it all in. It's been so special with the people and the places, and feeling super happy, super blessed. So excited about such a good summer.
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible. It was kind of fun because I know, UTMB is such a funny thing. Everybody's there in Chamonix, but I feel like I never actually get to see anybody because all my friends were racing. You're sort of hibernating, you have a very small circle of people before the race because no one wants to get sick. And just you're kind of mentally trying to get in that space. And then everyone leaves afterwards and it's sort of oh, the week's gone and we didn't actually get to hang out. And so I always find the first couple of years I went over there, I was almost disappointed. Oh, I thought I'd have all this time. And I'm sure you feel that too. You're right there. You see everybody coming into town, but you sort of have to be locked in and really in professional game mode. But I will say one of my favorite moments was at the start line of UTMB this year. And, I'm in the media corral, sandwiched in there and you're coming down the chute and it's such a big production. And then somehow we managed to lock eyes and you came over and we just shared the most amazing hug. Yeah. And it was just honestly, that just made me so happy all day. It was just this moment. And I mean, I don't know. I'm so grateful for you, for our friendship, but also just those moments of kind of connection in all the chaos. I feel that really helps simplify it a little bit. And I don't know. I'm sure for you, it's just such an overwhelming experience, just kind of getting to that start line and not being kind of, caught off by all the noise and the chaos of that chute. But
it's kind of funny because I think I'm like you too. It's so cool because everyone says isn't it chaos, isn't it crazy, everything. And I think I have so many of those moments, getting the little hugs and locking eyes with people, that it just it overshadows all the craziness. I feel so lucky over my 7-8 year trail running career to have met people from all around the world, and Cham is definitely the place that I get to see the most people in the most place, in the same place at one time. And it just makes it so exciting, so kind of just fulfilling that I don't know, I really soak up all the chaos because I think the chaos is what makes it possible.
It's true. Yeah. And I guess it's sort of it's public speaking. You can either kind of be affected by all of the energy or you can kind of channel the energy.
Yeah.
I feel you do a really good job of just every time I see you at a start line, you seem you're kind of very present. You're taking it in. You're not just I'm going to pretend it's not there.
Yeah.
But like you're not kind of letting that affect like how you're feeling starting the race.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I found that this year a lot. This is the first time I've managed to come backwards down the start line, which is really, really, it was amazing. I mean, it was so cool. Like, I got to share time with Drew Holman while they were kind of holding us at the other end. And that's always, just such a nice place to like really connect with people you like don't get the chance to connect to otherwise. And we could catch up about his adventures that have been happening over the summer and like the next adventure he was going on. And so as much as we were at the start line of UTMB, we were
You're like,
still
oh
just
right,
two
we're
friends
racing.
going for a run. Yeah, exactly. And so that was really special. And then like walking down, like you just have to soak it in. Like you never really get like another opportunity to just walk down in this huge crowd of incredible people. And like the coolest thing was like right where you were standing, especially like from the start line looking back, was that everyone has their phones out and their cameras and everything, and it's like we have however many people, 10,000 people here right now that all love the sport of trail running. Like that was so
Mm-hmm.
cool. Like that was, I don't know, I just like really wanted to soak up that time of like, I mean, in my personal journey, which you know about a lot too, like over the last year, getting my visa and things like that, was like our sport has grown so much, and it's so special to be a part of this whole growth and where it's at right now. And literally here we are all getting to celebrate it together. And that was really cool. I did soak it up.
It's so true. Like, I mean, I kind of describe UTMB as like the Disneyland for trail runners, like it is kind of the culmination of like a global feeling of this like love for the sport. And I really felt that this year. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was also really, really cool to see the start line. They really made an effort to have like 50% women and 50% men at the front. And so to see you guys all up there, that was really special too. Just like, normally it's like, oh, you might be like 10 rows back,
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it is a really, really special place. And yeah, I mean, this community is global and growing, and you see that reflected in everyone running the races. Like there's just flags from all over the world. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like kind of incredible, isn't it? Like I've been running ultras for 11 years now, and
Mm-hmm.
it's changed insanely. I mean, also
Yeah.
the Canadian trail running scene is very petite, but
Yeah.
mighty but petite.
Yeah.
And same with you in Zimbabwe, which
Mm-hmm.
is a great segue into how you got into trail running in the first place. So, for those of our viewers who aren't familiar with Emily's story, you have just like a fascinating background and where you grew up
Mm-hmm.
and maybe how that's influenced your life and how you got into trail running and continues to influence your kind of perspective on life. So I was hoping you could start by sharing just a little bit about, yeah, just like how you got into the sport and just like everything in your environment and like your growing up years that has influenced you.
Yeah, and I'm not like trying to change my story, but it's always nice to kind of be able to share maybe something more that people don't know. So if you have listened, so it's fun,
Yes,
especially
give us
you, like
give us
you know
the
so much of my story, but yeah, getting to
give us
share
the
like
dirt. Give us the, yeah.
little bits, yeah. I mean, and the more you kind of get to think about it, because people have challenged me to do that, is like I mean, I think I've been trail running for a lot longer than I've been in the sport, which is kind of cool. Like in Zim, I mean, I went to boarding school at the age of 5 years old and ran from then. We all had to do cross country and stuff, and
Was it a
um,
female only or was it male and female?
male and female.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you were running against the boys from an early age.
Yeah. I mean, they split the courses for sure. So yeah, the guys weren't we weren't
Yeah.
running against the guys. We had practices with them and everything. So yeah, very much co-ed, which was really fun.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so starting from 5 years old was running, and I ran all the way through junior and high school barefoot, so until I was 18 years old, and all our cross country courses were trail races, pretty much. I mean, we started on the football fields, or rugby fields in Zim, and would finish there. But otherwise, we were on dirt roads or on single track, like through the little woods, through like around the schools and stuff. So I've been trail running for my whole life, which is kind of special. Yeah, and I only officially got into sport at the end of 2017. I was doing Ironman triathlons
And
over
how'd you get into
here.
triathlons?
I when I came over for college, when I came over to the States for college, my swim coach, that I ended up getting on the swim team before I got on the running team. And when I met with my swim coach, she had an Ironman keyring on her keys when we met, like in her office. And I remember jumping, like seeing that because I'd watched a friend a few years before, like 3 years before, finish an Ironman over in Port Elizabeth in South Africa. And I remember watching, like, especially the golden hour of that race and being like, oh my gosh, I want to do this one day. Like, this is super
Mm.
special, super amazing. Like, there's all these, incredible people, like amputees, like, they've just done a full Ironman. Like, it was insane. It was like mind blowing. As much as we get inspired by all the people we see running our races, that was pretty cool.
Hmm.
And I asked her right away, like, "Oh, have you done an Ironman?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm training for one, like a half Ironman this summer. And I was like, "Oh, can I, can I do that with you?" And so it was really fun. I mean, we became friends right away, and I started training with her. And so I did that as my summer activity all the way through college. Yeah, so then what ended up being my final Ironman triathlon, and then my friend was getting married in Chalice, Idaho, and I went up there, and my college coach was there too because me and my friend were on our college track and cross country teams together, and he knew my current coach, Paul, who was and my friend who was getting married, her high school coach. And so I got introduced to Paul and asked him
Ah,
what he did, and he said he like trained some athletes to run the mountains, and that his son Cody Lind raced too. And I don't know, my heart just kind of jumped. I hadn't been like super enjoying, especially the bike portion of the triathlon, and like being around people and cars and things. And so I
so
just
scary, like honestly.
yeah, yeah. So I just like blurted out, "Can I do that?"
One sport, not three sports, one
Yeah,
sport, right?
yeah. Can I go play in the mountains? And the rest is history.
I love that. Just like a side note on Paul, I was going to bring that up and ask you how you guys first met.
Mhm.
But he's just like a cool guy, and like the Lynns have such an amazing history with Western states, which we'll get into more. But it's funny. I met Paul in Costa Rica. I met Cody and Paul in Costa Rica when
Mhm.
Cody did the Coastal Challenge. Maybe 2019, I think, somewhere around there, or 2018. But I remember Paul and I bonded because both of us really wanted to cheer on like all the runners, not just the top runners.
Mhm.
And so he brought like a camping chair and a cooler of beer out to the river that was like near the finish line for that day's like stage race. And like we sat in the river taking photos and cheering. He had a cowbell and a beer in his hand and his like little camp chair set up for like 6 hours, and
Yeah.
just talked away. And just I was so impressed like by his whole attitude towards trail running and just like life, and like he just really cares. And so I think that's
Mhm.
really cool that like meeting him was the way that you got into the sport, because I feel like he's sort of a coach that he's only got a few athletes, right? He really pours
Mhm.
everything into you guys, and I know he like thinks really hard about who he takes on. So I'm sure,
Mhm.
seeing you come to him with all this energy and enthusiasm but like very little experience, is just kind of interesting to see how it all worked out and how much a part of your career he's been, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I remember like from the beginning always thanking him for taking a chance on me because he didn't know me from block of cheese. Um and yeah, it's been really fun to it was cool because my college coach, I don't even know if Paul knows this, but my college coach Pat, who's now my strength coach, we stood together and we chatted like when I'd asked Paul to coach me that night. And Pat was like, just trust Paul. I'm like, okay. And like
Hmm.
that's been like the whole like foundation is like just trust like the plan, trust, everything. And that's been really cool. And it's been cool to see how much he trusts me too as an athlete. And so that's been really special that that's our foundation.
I feel like that's so important. And I feel like, it's sort of like finding a therapist, finding the right coach is not necessarily just like anybody can be your
Yeah.
coach, especially at the level that you're running. Like it really matters that you can have these conversations and listen to maybe hard feedback. And like,
Hmm.
it's not always just about the days when you're winning, right? So a lot of it's
Right.
about when you're learning and taking away things from races that didn't go as well and sort of like how you grow from that. And that's really, really special that you guys have found that cohesion and that trust. And I
Yeah.
feel like,
Sure.
it's kind of, you have this unlimited belief, something I was thinking about before the podcast. Like you have this kind of sense that you can figure things out in life and that whatever comes your way, like you're going to figure it out and you're going to find your way through it. And I feel like Paul is sort of that same approach. Like he's very intuitive and very sort of just like, um, yeah, I think that you guys both kind of believe in just like your own ability to, I don't know, I'm trying to put it into words what I'm feeling about you, but you run with your heart. And I think that's really like
Mhm.
how you approach your whole life. And that's how you've gone from Zimbabwe to living in the US and built this entire life over here. And you've really done it with this belief that you can accomplish anything that you set your mind to. And I think I see that in Cody as well, the way that he runs. And it was really exciting to watch him execute such a great race this year as well at UTMB. And it's just like, I think that that's kind of special to the little crew that you guys have built there. And you guys really support each other. And that, yeah, seems to make such a huge difference.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. And yeah, I think we've all been through a lot together as well, both highs and lows and stuff. And I definitely remember standing at the finish line. We'd asked Ian to take a picture of, all of us and our crews. And I stood there and I remember looking to my left and looking to my right and just like, thanking God. I'm a person of faith and just really like thanking him that this it could be like this.
That
Like
you found
we could
each
all
other,
be
right?
together. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
was like, this is what I prayed for years. And so
Yeah.
it's so nice to be at that point and yeah, see Cody crush it out there. I mean, I think I was more excited in Valacine that he had finished seventh than,
That's
than where
amazing.
I was. Yeah, it was awesome.
I want to go back to just like your origins in trail running and just kind of the attitude of play that I think you bring towards trail running. And I think that comes from your upbringing and the fact that you just grew up going barefoot through the mountains. And it wasn't really something that was a task. It wasn't something where people were like, okay, put on your running shoes and go and do repeats for an hour. It was much more like coming back to that intuition, coming from a place of you probably just like having it in you that you wanted to push yourself and that you wanted to see how it felt to go hard or to, like there's sort of a different approach when you don't grow up with that maybe structured training, but it's like innate in you as well.
Mhm.
Do you feel like that has kind of influenced the way that you train and your whole attitude towards trail running now as a professional?
Yeah, I mean, at the core of all my running is I love, like, this is my passion. I just have really lucked out that it gets to be my job and what I get to do all the time. I'd be here doing it as much as I could, like, if my path hadn't kind of fallen as much just along this trajectory as it has. And that's a really special place to be, like, uh, knowing like wherever you would have been, like this is what I've dreamt of doing for so long. That it's been really fun to see it kind of evolve and be at the place where it's at. And yeah, you get to, now I feel like I get to like challenge myself and really put myself out there. And it's been fun to develop with Paul like the program and doing hard workouts and doing things. But like from the start of doing it with him, like he always said to me, like when it's not fun anymore, like we don't want to be doing it. So then it's like, okay, well, every day has to be fun then, right?
Okay, and like how do you keep it fun? Coming from someone that hates structured workouts, how do you approach that in a place where it stays fun?
And yeah, I think I mean, coaches probably love me because I love structure. Just tell me what to do and I'll do
Oh man,
it.
I'm
I know
jealous.
so many of my teammates and
Just
everything
like
like,
that, Em. Just like that.
just like that. Like I'm the person that runs around the block trying to get the minutes to like match up. And I hate when Paul says like 16 to 18 miles. I'm like, can you just pick like 16
17.
or
I'm doing
18?
17.
Yeah. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like, it's just, I love that part. And I think that came from like boarding school and having a very structured and,
It taught
so
you
that's kind
discipline.
of part of the fun for me. Like, I like doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
the same on like the side of like all my strength stuff and everything. I like that my coach just writes out every day what I'm going to do. That's been really fun. And I love it. Like, I love what I get to do. So the racing and things like that and finish lines and stuff are seriously just cherries on the top. Like, I love the journey. I love the daily stuff. And yeah, when you're tired and everything, that just kind of adds to not as much the challenge, but like the energy to get out. And it's just like a daily part of life. Like, this is my life, which is cool. It's not just what I do, it's who I am. And I don't know, I've like really incorporated it all into just life. Like, I don't have an off season in a sense of like, I mean, yeah, I don't race, but I'm still going to be doing my daily stuff, which makes it really really fun and just part of like who I am. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does. It's something that I'm still fascinated by though, because at the heart of it, you have to have a very strong why in
Mm.
order to wake up every day with that joy and willingness to push yourself. Have you kind of dug into that to figure out like what is that engine that's sort of driving you to just like find the best in yourself in the sport every single day, every day? Like, I've never seen you not give your all, whatever that is. And I think you just approach life like that.
Yeah, and I think like the paths I've chosen to study, being having an exercise physiology degree, and then the community for me is such a big part of it too. Like, those are my people. Those, they're my friends, and everyone will say like, isn't it a lot like being coaching and having your exercise physiology degree, so that's what you studied, and being an athlete and everything. I'm like, no, like everything ties in, which is why I love it so much. Like, I wouldn't want to be around different people, so why wouldn't I choose all the things in my life to be around the same group of people that I
We're
love?
all in on it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
This episode is brought to you by Osprey. I see Osprey everywhere, as I'm sure you do too. Whether it's luggage, kids' carriers, or running packs, Osprey is the one-stop shop for adventure. My current favorite for backpacking is the Aura LT50 for lighter weight, multi-day overnight trips where comfort and ventilation are critical. It has an anti-gravity suspension that delivers a weight-defying fit that seamlessly envelopes your back and hips. Talk about comfort. The pack also has easy-to-use side pockets, trekking pole attachment, and integrated rain cover. And it's made with recycled materials. Head over to osprey.com and click on their tool, Pack Finder, to find the perfect pack for you.
No, it's true. And you're going to meet people that are very like-minded, right? Like, it's going to be
Yeah,
people that want the same things out of life. So that makes
exactly.
sense. Do
Yeah, and
you,
it's the same drive and the same passion and the same, get up and go each
mhm.
day, which is what I love. So it makes it easy. It makes it fun when you have the same people in your corner.
Yeah, so true. Okay, let's go back to the start of your trail running career. Your first trail ultra was the Ultra Trail Cape Town 65K. Was that the first one that you ran?
Yeah.
2017?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And was that before you met Paul or after you met Paul?
After I met Paul,
Okay.
I met
So,
him. Yeah, September.
okay. And so then you guys chatted and you figured out like what you wanted to race. Was there sort of like a reason that you chose that one? I know that the Ultra Trail Cape Town is something that you've come back to. Like, that's kind of been a special part of your trail running life.
Yeah, well, I think Paul was like, okay, like let's like pick a goal to kind of get started, you know. Um,
Just like dip your toes in the water, see how it goes.
yeah, yeah, and I was like, well, I'm going home for Christmas. Like, this kind of works really well. Like, I can't remember. I think he found it or I found it.
I've
Just
heard
like,
so many good things about that race. I
yeah.
honestly, it's on my list of places to go and check out. Like, it seems like the course is just beautiful.
It's so beautiful. That's a tough one, which is really fun. And the community and the people again are over and above. So definitely get out there if you can.
Yes.
But yeah, and then Paul like really wanted to travel too. And so it was kind of cool that we could go to the race. And then he actually came to Zimbabwe to my home and met my family and everything
Oh,
after that
really?
race too. So yeah, so we made it a full like adventure. So
Oh,
he
your
dove
parents
right
must have
in.
loved that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did. It was really fun having him out there and getting him to get to know me better and me to get to know him better too. So it was like the perfect way to start
Do you get to take
the
him on all your
coaching.
trails in Zimbabwe and all your old training grounds?
I mean, I was just mostly on the farm, and so yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, I get that. Also grew up on a farm, and it's like, yeah, there's something about going back to that, and like that is your roots, right? Like it's kind of in
right.
your DNA.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's so special. And
Mhm.
then I wanted to jump around a little bit, I guess, but one race I wanted to chat a little bit more about because we have kind of a shared history with it is the I Am Tough
Mhm.
100 miler in Idaho, which you won in 2020 during the COVID year, and also during the first year they ran the super course, I guess they call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell me a little bit about just like living in Idaho and how maybe that kind of shaped some of your trail running because obviously that's where you were really starting to kind of get into it more and then that race and then we could share stories of how you walked with me all night during my race but your race was a very different story.
No, I think I walked
No, you
just
did
as
not
much.
walk all night.
Yeah, how would I start with that one? I mean, this kind of continues on the journey with Paul. We'd had like very serious conversations when we started, like what we wanted to achieve. I started doing the Skyrunning World Series, more chances to travel, and Cody and Brittany were racing those races too. And I am such a team person. I like jumped at the opportunity to kind of get the chance to travel with everyone and
Mm-hmm.
be a part of it. So it was like the perfect way to get in. But we'd like me and Paul had really talked about like, I mean, yes, I jumped into 65K to start, but he was very like rigid on the fact that I'm still a super young athlete and I didn't need to jump into 100 milers or 100Ks too quickly and like make that my focus. Even though like even going in like after doing the Ironmans and competing in sports my whole life, I know that like endurance is one of my strengths, just kind of my maybe more natural strength. And
You'll
so
just
that
out
was
stubborn everybody.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think that was a really, really important conversation to have when we first started. And so we took a few years, 2020. That had always been the plan. That was the
Mm-hmm.
year I was going to run my first 100 miler. And
Because how old were
actually,
you in 2017? Just to back up a
I
second.
just graduated college. I can't remember.
Baby Emily.
Maybe 20,
Still early 20s.
yeah, still early 20s.
Which is so smart that you had Paul to sort of give you some perspective because I feel
Mhm.
like, I mean, anyone I meet that's getting into ultras, the tendency is to just want to go for the big distances. And you
Yeah.
sort of you dabble, you do your 50K or your 65K, and then you're sort of
Mhm.
like, what next? And you want to go
Yeah.
longer. And having someone that can kind of reel you in and be like, no, 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 like we're going to build this from like the ground up. Like, I feel like that in itself is so valuable that you had that.
Yeah. And I feel like that's like where, yeah, like the core of it all kind of grew from. And that's like a really good place to be. And even for me, when I am working with my athletes, I kind of had the same thing. Like, don't jump in too far. Like, just because you're running longer doesn't mean it's like the best way for you to go immediately. Like, there's so many tools and tricks you can learn about the sport running the shorter stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even now, like I love running the shorter stuff too. Like I love the long stuff, but I love the short stuff.
It
So I
hurts
love
so
being able
good.
to, I love being able to like incorporate it all into it. And I think we
Mm-hmm.
gain so much from both. Um, yeah. So anyways, my first 100 had planned to be UTMB. Like I got my qualifications and stuff. So like I had my entry, and then because it was 2020 and COVID, They ended up canceling UTMB. And then we got notification that I'm Tough was going to run in 2020. And it was super exciting. Like, I mean, the first race out of COVID.
Seriously, I remember
Yeah,
in
I
the
mean,
fall, it
nice.
was like, oh, like we can actually do this again. Like there was that sort of like there's some hope, you know?
It was like the most special race. And I mean, it ended up being the most competitive year I'm Tough has ever had, because suddenly all of us were like, oh, we can go to I'm Tough. We can go race there. Like that was the first year I raced Katie.
Yeah, as I
And
say, you and Katie and Asmith went head to head that race, didn't you? Who
yep.
else was in the mix?
I'm trying to think on the girls' side. I like can't remember. I mean, I led from the start, so I actually never like sold Katie or anything. But like the guys, like Jason Schlarb was out there. He was the one who won. I think Rich Lockwood was out there. I'm pretty sure. Like there was, I don't know. It ended up being like a full field, and it was super fun because like it was like, yeah, we got to run together, and we were so excited. Like, I mean, I ran way too fast for the first 6 miles. Jason called me like, at like mile 5. Like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, I get to be out here with all my friends. And every aid station we came in with masks on, but it was like such a special celebration of getting to be back out there. Yeah, so I'm Tough ended up being my first one back, and obviously big Idaho community. I love Idaho. I love the people. I love the running community and everything. And it's been a special place. And it's the first place. I mean, in Zim, I never really had exposure to mountains. And so when I get into trail running, and I remember like my first run out in Idaho, like my first big mountain run.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
A little different than like running on the farm.
Yeah. And getting to, have pole up in Chalice, Idaho, and getting out into those mountains and explore and really discover like being in the mountains and mountain safety and mountain challenges. Like I have such a big respect for mountains, being out there all seasons too. And it's definitely grown me into the athlete I am today. Just the challenges of being in the mountains and all the lessons I've learned from being out there, and the community for sure. I love that I Am Tough got to be my first one.
I think it's so fitting. And, it's kind of funny when you say that about learning to move through the mountains, because I feel like that's what I loved about that race. And coming from Canada, like that's what I knew trail running to be, was just like, no, you hike uphill and then you run where you can, but it's mostly like rocks and roots and like pretty technical. And I love that feeling of moving through the mountains efficiently. And I feel like I've seen a lot of adventures that you and Paul and Cody have done over the years, where you guys just like go out into the wilderness and go camping and go hiking, and not necessarily even like a training camp, but just like being in the mountains and kind of learning from that. And like, I feel like that's really healthy, because I think if you want to have a career that has longevity, you have to just like appreciate that you get to be in these places. You have to respect them. I feel like you have to have a very kind of symbiotic relationship with the mountains and everything that they can bring. And if you don't spend enough time in the mountains, if you just train on really runnable terrain, then you get into these big races. And UTMB is like, the trails are pretty like buffed out, but it's still in the mountains, and you can get snow and you can get lightning and you can get all these things. And if you're not comfortable like surviving in that environment, I feel like that's where that catches people off guard.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like my biggest maybe piece of advice is like, on every start line, especially in the mountains, like respect the mountain and respect the people you're racing with. Everyone has worked just as hard as you have to be there. Like, and if you lack either one of those, if you want to challenge either one of those, like the best you can do is come out equal, but there's a high chance it'll show you exactly your place. And especially that's the mountains will show you what they're made of, and kind of gain your respect that way.
Yeah, I feel like for me that's like that kind of grounds me. And like, I'm having this race experience, but the mountains don't care about that. Like they don't care that I have a race bib on, like they're going to treat me the same. And I always think about that, because I'm like, there's so many times when I'm out in the mountains and maybe I've like shortchanged my gear a little bit, or I just haven't been as prepared as I should have. And I feel like in races, there's definitely that tendency where people feel like they're quote safe because they're in a race environment. But when you're running 100 miles, you're out there, like there's a lot of times where there's no cell phone coverage, and just I think really having a very healthy dose of respect for the mountains, it helps you to have more of a conversation with them as you're running. And I feel like it makes you more present in where you are and with checking in with what you need, instead of just being like, I'm going to run my race. This is what I've trained. These are the splits that I run on this training ground, and so I think that is a huge part of like both of our love for trail running. And I think it's so cool that was your first race. And so much fun that you got to come back and pace me there last year. That was a really, really special race for me. And I just loved that you were willing to come out and help. Remember, I just was like, I just had this feeling. I was like, I love Emily. I've seen her at so many different races. We don't get to hang out that much, but I just like want to hang out. So I'm going to see if she wants to come and be part of my crew for this race. And it was amazing.
That was the best and the easiest yes to say, to be a part of it. Because, I mean, I love the race, but like you said, like we have got to interact before, but never actually spent some time. And I really like treasured both the time I got to spend out with you, like on the trails, and the time I got to share with Billy, like driving around and crewing you. And it was so cool. I just got to connect really, really closely with both of you. And this is what I love about trail running community is we have so many like great connections and great connections with different races. And I know we've, got to now discover like who our common friends are too. And we get to I get to talk about you a lot more because like I know people that know you too. And that's really, really, I'm Tough was like the perfect place for that. And I loved it. And I loved getting to hear all your elephant stories and stop you falling asleep on the trail.
We had lots of stories, lots of timer stories. My favorite was like when you ran with me. And like, by the way, you had just like come second in CCC like weeks earlier, like 2 weeks earlier. And you ended up running like, I can't remember, like 60K with me or something like that. It was like a fair amount of the pacing. And because Billy ran Wasatch 100 the weekend before, so he was like in worse shape than anybody. So you ended up doing a lot of the pacing. And I just remember like when you picked me up from, I can't remember the aid station, but it was like right before dawn and we were running and I got really sleepy. And we're just like trudging along, and I just like hear this little voice from behind me being like, Hilary, are you sleepwalking on me right now? And I remember just being like, oh no, she caught me. And I was fully just like eyes closed, like totally asleep. And I just remember being like, no. But it was just like so cute the way you said it. You're just like, I think you're asleep. I'm walking. And like,
it was the best because you were chatty like the whole time I was pacing you, and then suddenly you got very quiet.
Just like dropped off. Well, then I remember we had to like cross the little river, and I think we both fell in, which like thankfully woke me up.
Yeah, thank goodness that river.
But you
I stepped right on the same rocks as you, thinking I haven't run 100 miles. I'll be just fine.
My balance is good.
Turns out it is slippery.
Oh my gosh, those moments, it's so funny. Those are the moments like, and I think like every race, it's like not necessarily the ones where you're finishing strong or whatever. It's kind of those just like human moments when you're out there that are just so special and you can't replicate in any other scenario, unless you were all like both a little delirious and like sleep deprived.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that was special. I love getting to share that.
Yeah. I feel like I learned from you too during that race because you're so good at your nutrition and just like nibbling away at food. And I struggle so much with eating in races. Like I always get nauseous. I don't know what it is. I just get to like 100K and I go on strike and I find it really hard to get anything in. And I feel like you were so good at just being like, can you just have like a bite or just like another little nibble or, and then like, how about we jog from this tree to the next tree? And, but I think your attitude of just breaking it down into these really small little moments and like less worried about what's going to happen in 2 hours from now, but just like right now, what can we do to make this just a little bit better? I feel like I really took that away from that race experience. So yeah.
Good. I'm glad it helped. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. And I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like, how do you eat an elephant? How do you run 100 miler? Like one bite at a time, one step at a time for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like you definitely like applied that. And I think the way that you got into the hundreds, like you did with so many of the shorter races, like you kind of build, you ladder with every
Mhm.
experience, right? And like, okay, well, now I jump up in distance and I go to 100K or whatever it is. Like, what do I learn from that? And how do I take that? And just like you said, whatever the distance is, really is the perspective is the same if you're kind of focused on just like right in front of me, what do I have to do? What's the very next thing I need to do to get to the next aid station, to get to the next, whatever the checkpoint is, instead of just like being overwhelmed by like, I'm not eating. I'm like, everything's falling apart.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. You'll I threw up for the first time
Did
during a
you?
race. Yeah, this time at UTMB.
No. Was it
Yeah,
caught on camera?
Courtney. It should. Yeah, I mean, there were like a lot of cameras there.
Probably it's
But
UTMB. Yeah.
yeah, and Courtney was out there. Thank goodness, because
Aw.
I walked out. It was after Vallecina. I'd felt really good coming in, like eating a bunch in the aid station and walking out. And Court was there, and then my whole Terex team, which is amazing. And suddenly, I know my eyes just got really big because I was like, I do not feel good right now. And Court was so good. She stepped out and she's like, Em, if you need to throw up, like throw up. And I did
Mm.
like 7 times.
Mm.
But it was just like, it was really like a good thing for her to just say, like, dude, it'll just do it. Like,
Yeah.
it'll make you
Just
feel
don't worry
better.
about it.
Yeah.
7 times. Oh my
Well,
gosh.
I didn't have anything left.
What do you think it was? Was it just
The
like,
heat, everything.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
so hot.
It was hot. Yeah, just humid. And then eating a bunch. And yeah, I mean, everyone threw up. Everyone threw up. Everyone had messed up stomachs. Everyone didn't feel great. Like, the toughest, it was the toughest ladies that got top 20.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and also there were a lot more ladies that pushed right through to the finish than the men's field just got absolutely decimated this year, which was
Yeah.
kind of crazy. Just like, yeah, with I feel like the way the sport's going and having to push so hard the whole race, like you just
Mhm.
don't have any margin of safety. Like there's no kind of like, oh, I'm not feeling great, I'll just back off for a little bit. Like it's just so competitive now that fine line between like, being in it and then just like falling apart is like right there, I'm sure, the whole time you're running. Like, where is that line?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is the thing too. Is like, I mean, it is 100 miles and things can turn back around, but you're probably still going to be working as hard when you're trying to turn things around. And that's, yeah, like, like Katie said, like that's where our sport is going right now. Like you got to be in it.
It's wild. Like, so
Hmm.
I was looking at your time from 2022 when you placed sixth place in UTMB and you ran it in 26:37.
Hmm.
And then this year you also placed sixth again, but you ran it in 24:58, which was almost 2 hours faster than
Hmm.
2022 for the same place in the field. And that just like, that blew my mind. Like you ran almost 2 hours faster this year in heat, in like really challenging conditions. And like the women's field in general has just gotten so strong and so competitive. How did you feel like just kind of knowing that? Like I'm sure you didn't know exactly like how your day was going to play out, but like you must have known you're running a lot faster than your previous effort, but like everyone is.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I knew it was going to be like that. I told people before, like in interviews before, like this is going to be the fastest year. We have the strongest field stepping up to the line. Um, it's going to be fast right from the start, and so I mean, I wasn't surprised at all. I knew, I knew that's what it was going to be like, and states showed that. That was our first kind of indicator, but it's just been like that from every race since. And I knew it wasn't going to be any different at UTMB. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think I voice during because this happened at states too, where I'm like, I'm running, record pace time or previous
Mm-hmm.
record pace time, and I'm in fifth place right now.
Like
Or
times that would have won just a couple of years ago, not
yeah,
like a long time ago, just like 3 or 4 years ago.
yeah, exactly. And this year, I definitely got to the time where I ran up to my, my camera crew and pole and stuff, and I was like, how the heck am I in fifth place? Like I'm running so much faster. I'm nailing my splits and everything. And I
Yeah.
just know like that's where our field is right now, which is like people have asked me, like, how do you feel that, are you bummed that, like, you weren't running these times 2 years ago and getting to just, win and stuff? I'm like, no, like, and I just shared this, Katie just wrote her race recap, and it's like, no, like, because it is like this right now, it's pushing us all to be better than we ever would have been if we weren't at this level of competition right now. And that's like the coolest place to be, and kind of the greatest honor to be a part of these fields right now, where we're pushing each other to be better than we ever probably would have dreamt of being. Like, the lines are just higher now. The goal lines are just way better than they ever been, and that's so cool.
Well, I feel like especially in the women's side of things, like it just feels like every race, like some records being shattered, the whole women's field is so much faster. Like there's so much excitement around the women's races in general. It's just like really, really cool to see. And I mean, Western States, particularly as an example of just, looking at your times over the last like 4 years that you've run it, like, when you placed 7th in 2021, 1913, and then this year when you placed 4th in 1648, which is wild. Like, that's so fast. It's 2.5 hours faster, but 4th, whereas if you'd gotten that time in 2021, like you said, that would have been the winning time easily. Do you find when you're racing and you come into the aid station and you get your splits and Paul's like, you're right on track, you're right on your pace or whatever, but you know that you're still in 4th or 5th place, does that affect you at all? Are you able to separate like your goals from how the field is doing? Because I feel like at this point in the game, like that, it's a little bit hard because you're just like performing at this incredible level. And then you have to just sort of like, just be like locked into your own race and not affected by what other people are doing, because it's just like, it's quite challenging, I would feel, mentally, to kind of wrap your head around how to race in this environment.
Yeah, I've kind of loved it. I think it, because it is like, like it has been my very own personal journey, and now it gets to be more personal. Like it's special getting to step up there and be like, this is my plan. I'm going to stick to it. I'm not going to worry about what's going on around me. And if I can stick to my plan, I'm going to have the best day I can. And if there's people that can run faster than me, like, good, like, great for them, I think definitely in a race, you get to the point where you're like, well, hopefully some of these people are going to die, but they're not.
Right? You're just like, right, attrition is all I got.
Yeah. I'm giving it everything. And it's been I think it's been like such a good focus spot to be in, is that like, you just can't compare yourself to other people out there, which is so cool. Like, I love that. Like, you got to bring your A game, stick to your race plan, and see what you got, see where you can place in the field. And I wouldn't trade getting a top 10 place for anything. So like, being able to, perform at my top. And I mean, I said this year, like, the only person I felt missing from our field at UTMB was Courtney. And the fact that I can still get 6th in a field that insanely amazing is like, I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Well, and like, Katie took 22 minutes off of Courtney's record at UTMB, which is like, amazing. The fields are just continuing to get faster, whether Courtney's there or not. Like, the women's field in general is just getting faster. And like, I think so many of you guys are right at the forefront of pushing what's possible and pushing that, ceiling a little bit higher. And I love that you have that attitude towards it all. I think maybe in a sense, it's like, it seems like it's quite freeing, if you just can release like where you end up placing. And it's not as much about that as it is about just you pushing yourself to be the best that you can be in that moment. But it takes mental discipline to stay locked into that,
Sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. No, it's cool. It's nice too, because like, I still feel like I'm still so early in my journey that it's a good place to be right now, which is exciting. I mean, the coolest thing too. So the top 50 athletes, like guys and girls at UTMB, were all under 25 hours.
Wow.
It's insane.
That's crazy.
Or under 25. Yeah.
It's just so wild. Good. Like, I mean, Lucy was 10th. Lucy Bartholomew was 10th this year. and she was 10th last year as well, but she was an hour 40 faster than last year. And that's just 1 year.
I know.
That's wild. Like, she finished in the daylight. All top 10 of the women finished in the daylight, which is so cool.
Yep. Yeah, I know. It is funny because like UTMB, I think the people who finish later and stuff, it'd be fun if they know this, is that like, so my first year racing UTMB, I got 10th, and so I finished in the dark. I had to pull my headlamp out. You know, obviously since then it's been a goal of like trying to finish in the light, because pulling out your headlamp for the second night is always really hard.
Totally.
But that 10th place finish, the first year, it was 28 and a half hours. And I remember coming into town and everyone had been, you know, drinking and partying for a lot longer. So the finish line was a lot crazier.
You're like, oh, this is what it's like to finish like this.
Yeah. So the people coming in after dark, you get a lot of celebration at UTMB. It's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. Like, that really makes a difference. And I mean, we were saying that just seeing all the women finish in daylight, like, you do get so much more support, and that's just like awesome. So that's a good side effect of everyone getting faster for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I know you coach a bit, right? But you have a pretty small kind of roster of clients. How many people do you usually have at any given time?
I have 10 right now, and currently they're racing this weekend, but I currently have 56 rangers from Zimbabwe. Like,
really?
Yeah.
I didn't know you did that.
I know. This is my first year, and I love.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about that. That's so cute.
Yeah, so they're racing a 100-miler this weekend, out in Angola, Iona National Park,
and they're actual like park rangers.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been really, really cool. I mean, it's such a different setup. Like, their bosses employed me, and it's all done over WhatsApp. Like, I write training plans, and like, all of them, so they're all competing against each other, but they all have the same training plan, so we'll get to see.
Oh, that's fascinating.
I know.
There's a case study.
It's kind of unique, and I really loved it. But yeah, I have like from 13 different countries in Africa, 23 different game parks. I have all these athletes.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Really, really fun. I know. I'm like really excited about it. It's been so unique because it hasn't been like my one-on-one coaching I have done before. And so, yeah, I'm kind of excited, and they have been asked like not to really bother me unless they have like questions with injuries and things like that. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to see how it all goes this weekend.
And what's the kind of reasoning behind them wanting to do the program like this?
Yeah, I mean, they've had this kind of challenge. I think they've had this for a few years, of running this 100-miler. And obviously it's like more to like give the guys a like focus, for the year, training wise and stuff. And each park like chooses the top 2 or 3 athletes, like their top athlete, and then they get to like compete against each other. And they are aiming to like bring awareness to kind of what the rangers do in the national parks, in Africa, which is kind of special.
Yeah, that's a tough job too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. And then you have 10 athletes that you coach kind of regularly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you find that you learn as an athlete from coaching other people? Because I actually love that relationship of like mentoring someone, or just like I always find I learn from teaching other people what I know. So what do you find that you learn from being a coach?
Yeah, so much. I mean, we talk about like learning a lot in our races and a lot in our training and stuff like that. And when I have, 10 other people training and racing and communicating with me and asking me questions and getting over injuries and things like that, like I learn so much from them. Hopefully as much as they learn from me. And just like kind of figuring things out. I love, like, that's kind of what I studied in college and grad school. Was the unique part of it for me is like having the personalized training plan. Like, I studied high altitude exercise physiology, and we all respond so uniquely to high altitude. And I kind of trying to bring that to my coaching philosophy of like, everyone is unique. We all have different schedules. We all have different focuses, you know, like, not all of us get to be professional athletes. And so, you know, figuring out what works for everyone in the best way is my like favorite part of coaching. And I feel like I get the best results for my athletes by figuring out their plan. Like, obviously telling them to rest is the biggest challenge.
Do you ever listen to that and be like, oh, I should probably do that too?
Yeah, I definitely find when they figure that out, that they find so much more joy in the training and the racing and stuff. And when they can really focus just on their journey and not what other people are doing around them, that's when they excel the best.
Yeah. It's the same thing that you're applying to your own competitive side of things, right? Do your athletes come from like a range of backgrounds? Like they're not all other elite athletes?
Yeah, no. I don't have another elite athlete. And very big range, like age ranges and background ranges. I have a swimmer. I've
Back
had
to your tri roots.
before. Yeah. I've had some other triathletes. You know, road runners, trail runners, all distances, and it's been really fun, and all different time zones. I always say that's like when I come back.
That is a challenge.
I know. Yesterday I was like doing my training, you know, training peaks and training plans for the week, and I'm like, oh, I gotta hurry up because I have only 2 hours before half my athletes are awake.
You're like, whoops. That is kind of nice though. Sometimes when you're like in a different time zone, you're like, oh, I have like 8 hours of peace and quiet to work before someone is like awake and responding, you know?
Yeah, I definitely have them all through all the time zones. So I have to figure that out. Probably a little better too, of like when I respond, because I could be on call 24 hours a day because people, all my
that's like 3 a.m. for someone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, do.
Yep.
That's funny.
Yeah. But I mean, I love my experience with my athletes, and it also gives me a big respect for what Paul does and what other coaches deal with and stuff too. And so that's kind of nice. It puts me on the same kind of playing field, and hopefully like I can show that through the respect I have for all the effort and time and energy they pour into me, both Pat and Paul.
Yeah, you're sort of meeting them there. And that's something that I was kind of curious about, because I know that you place a lot of emphasis on your nutrition and on your strength training, working with Pat, do you work with someone on your nutrition? But no, you just kind of have a good grasp on that yourself.
Yeah.
How do you find when you travel? Like, how does that affect all of that? Because I find travel incredibly difficult for training, for all of my routines just go out the window. So what's your strategy for kind of managing all the time zone changes, the travel, and still kind of keeping that solid throughout?
Yeah. I mean, just like you said, like kind of all the aspects, trying to fit that into as much as I can, as I'm traveling, as much as like changing time zones becomes a part of it. Staying on routine. I know, staying on routine. It never gets better. Staying on routine is definitely key. And I think actually it helps me a lot, like with adjusting time zones and things. I'm like, okay, when I'm awake, like I know the first thing I do is my little mobility routine in the morning. And the better I do that and like stay on routine, I think the better I adjust and the better I feel about being in different places. And honestly, like having the right people who do exactly the same thing too is very encouraging and super supportive to, you know, do your routine and have someone doing the same or doing their routine, but at the same time kind of keeping you on track, which is really good. The food part is a hard part. I'm gluten free and I can struggle with that a lot.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. And
it makes traveling a bit challenging sometimes.
It does. Yeah. I've actually started traveling with just like the 90-second bags of rice, and I'm like, at least like I have a few meals. So if I, you know, miss the supermarket time, because like in Spain, you know, their meal times are so different, and waiting until 9 o'clock
eats at
night.
like 11 o'clock at night.
I know.
Like,
It's so true. Yeah. And so
But
trying to
then the
figure
grocery stores close down at like 5 because they have a great work-life balance. But yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so yeah, just trying to figure that out, but like as much as possible trying to take food so I'm not fully relying on where I'm at to get food. Like I have, overnight oats that I can hopefully toss in the fridge somewhere. And so trying to be more diligent about that because it's so hard. That's probably the hardest part. And when you change food, change countries, that can be another risk of like getting sick and things like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
just trying
totally.
to. I mean, it's nice here. Like they also have the like mountain house meals. And so taking some of those can also be really, really
Oh,
helpful.
yes.
Yeah.
I definitely
They
travel with my dehydrated meals.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely a big thing that I'm sure you have to think about. And also, like, when you get to a race, how early you want to get there, just so you can sort out all that stuff ahead of time, right?
Right, right. I mean, yeah, like it's nice with UTMB, like for us on the Terex team, like that's a very big like team bonding trip too, and time to be together. Like this year, I think there were like at least 9 of us at any one time together in a house in Sham. And I love that. Like, I'm like, okay, if I get to go like 3 weeks early and get to live with my team and really like get that routine down in another country, that's a cool place to be too. And so that is a nice addition to being able to travel early, which I know a lot of people don't get that opportunity, but I really do soak that in.
Yeah. Your team seems really cool too. Like everyone on the Adidas Terex team seems like they're just like very bonded and very cohesive. And that's really like awesome. You get to be part of that.
Yeah, I feel really lucky. I definitely told Rob when he was asking me to join, I was like, I just want a team and
I
not
want a
just
family.
and not just people that wear the same gear. Like, let's be a family. And it's so true. It's really, really special to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I feel like I could chat with you all day and just like get your wisdom on life. I just have a couple more things that I wanted to kind of ask you, and then we'll close this little catch up chat. But I was thinking about just like where you are in your life right now, and I know you were saying earlier, just like you've had so many kind of obstacles, maybe, or things that other people might find obstacles to where you are, even getting the visa to continue being in the US, like being away from your family on the other side of the world, building a life here, just like where you are right now. Do you ever stop and kind of reflect on it? And if you do, what is something that you would tell like the younger version of yourself about where you are in life or kind of what you've learned that's kind of allowed you to create this life? Because really you've created something that I'm sure you never dreamed that you would have when you were little, living in Zimbabwe, growing up on a farm with your family. Like, what would you say to little Emily if you kind of went back in time, and what have you learned about kind of going after the things that you want in life?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Definitely, I'd tell little Emily, like, meet all the people you can and really share your journey. Like, getting to live life with people is amazing. And so many doors have been opened by the incredible people I know, and they've made, so much of this possible. I kind of I really like not having expectations for the future. Like the more I can get there by being able to say yes to opportunities or, no to doors that really scare me, is a good place to be. Yeah, and just trust the journey. Like I would tell little Emily, like it's all gonna work out. Like just keep trusting and all the depths and highs and lows and everything. Like keep trusting where you're at and what you're doing, and as long as you bring, you give your all to everything, love fully, be joyful, and really soak up the opportunity to be where you're at right now.
I feel like you do all those things. Like that's you. And kind of going back to what I was saying at the beginning, that you have this belief that everything's going to work out. And I think kind of having that as your like core has allowed you to seize these opportunities and to kind of go after the life that you want, like I think so often we're held back by just like, oh, this feels hard or this feels scary or unknown. And that can be the difference. Living in that fear can be the difference in whether or not you get to actually have this life that you know that you want and dream of, you know?
Yeah, I've definitely been challenged there. I've realized that when the unknown is around people I love, like especially my family, and challenges and stuff come up there, that can be the most scary part to kind of trust and really believe it's going to work out. When the people you love are threatened or things happen that are out of your control, that can be definitely the most scary part. And I've been lucky and blessed to see miracles happen there. And I hope that people can really take that faith and trust in like giving all you've got and really soaking up all that time with your family when you do get the opportunity. That's a really like important thing to do in your life.
Yeah, I feel like you and I, I think we bond over like a number of things. And, one of them being our background, both of us growing up on farms and stuff, but also like where we are in life now, both of us living in places where our family isn't close by necessarily. I think mine's a little closer being up in Vancouver from yours over in Zimbabwe. But I feel like I'm way more intentional with the time that I do spend with my family than I ever was when I lived like an hour away, like I never would just go over and hang out for days on end. And now I feel like when I get the chance to see them, I'm like, I'm gonna be here for 7 days and I'm gonna see you the whole time. And like I almost don't even want to go see my friends. I just like want to be with my family. And I'm sure, it's like that for you too. And it's so interesting as an adult, right? Like the value you place on family and just like the time that you do get to spend and how precious that is.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I'm really grateful. A lot of people like said when you were younger, like, wasn't it hard going away from your family at 5 years old and stuff? Probably harder on my mom, but I think that's where it really started was every weekend, like you said, I wanted to spend with my family. Like that's like where I wanted to be. I spent all week with my friends, so it was so fun on the weekends to just go home and chill. And I really feel that now. So yeah, when I get the time to go home, it's so nice to just hang out.
And it's so special that your family, they were able to be over in Chamonix with you. And I know your parents get to like travel and see you race and stuff. And that must be like such a cool way of connecting as an adult with them, getting to have them part of these experiences with you.
Yeah, I love it. And I hope they love it too.
They seem so cute. I really want to meet them.
Yeah, did you not get to?
I don't think I have. I think I've seen them, but it was all races and you know how it goes. But I mean, I feel like I know them through just like what you shared about them being out at your races or getting to travel with them when you're kind of in these different countries and stuff. And I just think that's so cool that you can do that with them.
Yeah. Well, we'll make it happen that you get to meet them. I love them.
Thank you. How would you say that I was just thinking about your last response there, just your faith and how that kind of guides you through your life. Do you feel like that's something you draw on during your races? Like how is that part of your everyday life?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of my core. I never really understand or have understood before how like people don't live with faith, but I'm slowly like learning, like obviously everyone has their own guiding like lights and things like that. And for me growing up, I grew up in Zimbabwe, third, fourth world country, very much a lot of unknown. And the one thing that has always been true to me is my faith and like what I believe. And that's been a really like core part of who I am and the strength I get from praying and believing that my best friend, is God and that I have someone with me the whole time. It doesn't matter where I travel in the world. And that's been like really, really special to me and a kind of a guiding light and has really guided me to people. And during races, like he's the one I can talk to. Like I don't see people for hours.
You're like, I promise I'm not talking to myself.
Yeah.
This is what most of the people are doing out there.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's fun too, because like as a kid, I think I always thought like, how people have their imaginary best friends and things like that. Like I always thought God was my imaginary best friend. I could just chat with him. And yeah, and that's really helped me in like really scary situations, but also in like really good times. And it helps me during races, like highs and lows. Like I get to celebrate, which has been cool, like with him. And then I also get to like be like, please help me. And
Right.
really having that faith that like he guides like my steps and my breath and everything. Like that's a really kind of cool part of who I am and on my journey. And it's just been a really big comfort for me to have that faith. And I'm really grateful. Like I've seen miracles that I believe he's had a hand in. And each day, like I'm really grateful for my faith and for my best friend.
I love that. Yeah, it's, you see a lot of people that are, I grew up Christian and wouldn't say I'm particularly religious anymore, but I have a huge admiration for faith. And just like, I think you have a very genuine faith and a very like, just real way of incorporating that into your life. And it's not just something that you're paying lip service to. It's very much like a part of you. And, you just like radiate light, like everywhere you go. And I feel like I've just been smiling the whole episode. I feel like I just can't help it. Like you have that effect on people and you have that joy that just like emanates from who you are. And so, I really, really admire you. I feel like you have an amazing just philosophy towards life, the way that you look at life, the way that you look at life's challenges. You don't let them get you down. You're just always focused on the good in life and also just like finding that joy. And I think your faith plays a huge part in that. So I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that I think that's a beautiful part of who you are and what makes you so strong on the trails, but also just like off the trails in the rest of your life too.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, a lot of people don't say that, and it's really, really special to hear. Thank you.
Speaking of philosophies, I wanted to end with a couple things, but one of them was just like, if you had to distill your philosophy towards life to just like one sentence or a few words, what would be sort of the thing that comes back to you as like, this is my core, either philosophy or mantra or whatever you want to call it?
It's a really good question.
Coming in with the hard-hitting questions at the end.
I know. I can think really hard. Yeah, I mean, kind of like all the things we've been talking about, which is really cool. Like for me, like, yeah, having that guiding faith, but also that comes through like loving people and loving the world we get to live in and really just soaking in every moment we can and praying that, the highlights are bigger than the lowlights. And if you can really focus on those highlights, I believe that, your steps forward are just so much more worthwhile. And I really hope everyone can celebrate more of the good in life than the tough stuff. We all need to look after each other, and that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if all of us just had a little bit more of that in our lives, I feel like the world would just be a little bit better,
Yeah.
But I think it starts with just each one of us making that effort to influence our own little circles, right? And to have that positive effect. I wrote down here for what I feel like your philosophy is, and I think you might have actually mentioned this in a talk that you did at your school a couple years ago, but to be intentional in your joy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that really kind of encapsulates who you are, right? You are very intentional. And I think joy isn't something, like everyone has hard times, right?
Yeah.
It's not like life is easy for you just because you choose to be happy, but you do come across like you're very intentional in your joy. And I thought that was a beautiful way of approaching it.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely. It's nice to be reminded of that too, because I think like in our world, it's really easy to get caught up on like phones and things like that. And for me, like the biggest joy is when you're sitting with people and they're not looking at their phones and you just get to like really share that time. And I know the world is super connected, and I, above anyone else, like I'm connected with the world, and I
You
understand
have athletes in
like,
different time zones. You've got all these things going on too.
and all friends and my family, like I wouldn't want the world to not have phones, but I really love the time where we just get to put everything on silent and really just be where we're at with the people we're with. And so, yeah, like being very intentional kind of in all things as well as your joy is, such a good guiding light, guiding philosophy for sure.
Yeah, I feel like we all need that reminder sometimes, just like
Mhm.
there's always the negative, but how we choose to respond and like that's our choice, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, I don't want this to end.
I know. We'll have to get on again.
I know. Okay, well, as we bring this to a close, what's next for you? What are you kind of
Hmm.
excited about for the fall? It doesn't have to be racing, but just like what's kind of on your calendar or on your mind for the next few months?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of starts this week. In a couple hours, I am driving over to Healdsburg and Sonoma
Oh,
County and doing a photo shoot over there and getting
oh my
to
gosh, I
connect
love
with,
Healdsburg.
yeah, getting to connect with the community over there. So that's really exciting. And then I have friends getting married this Friday, and then a dinner out here with the Sacramento Running Association. Um, so that, I mean, those are all the like super,
Those are
close
some great
knit things.
highlights. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's more mountain time on the cards up in Idaho. And it's just that time of year. I love the summer and then going into, the winter and everything. And the time just to spend outside is really cool. And then I get to go home for Christmas, which will be amazing. So lots of things on the journey cards. And I haven't really thought about races or anything. Definitely the full respect to the body now after 200 milers this summer. And I'm excited to kind of see what's going to be on the plans next.
I have one hot take for you to or I guess like putting you on the spot question for you
Okay.
for kind of the future. I know your background is in high altitude exercise. So when are you planning on lining up for a race like Hard Rock?
Yeah, I mean, I've been putting in for a few years now, so we'll see if
So come on, Dale, let's
I
let her
need
in.
to. Yeah.
I mean, I'm 8 years in the lottery for that one, and they don't seem to give a shit. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's definitely on the cards. I'm kind of excited to be helping friends right now with like their high altitude adventures, and I do have a high altitude tent, which is
I was
really
going to ask if
fun.
you sleep with one. I'm like, come on now, you can't have a master's in this stuff and not like
Yeah, I
be in
just
it.
have like the little like pillow one where you just have like a little tent over your pillow. Ochi still finds a way to sleep in there with me.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's so funny.
I know. But actually, it's funny because I think I need to upgrade and get the full bed one because the
What a
pillow,
look.
yeah, it's the machine sometimes is actually just like really loud, and it gets really hot in my
Hmm.
room. And so trying to kind of juggle those sort of things. Some years I've used it and it is amazing, and I sleep great because I'm like, oh, it's so repetitive and it just puts me right to
Hmm.
sleep. And some like this year, I didn't end up actually being able to use it because I was like, I'm not sleeping,
Yeah, right.
and
Kind
like,
of defeats the purpose.
yeah, kind of takes
You're
away
like,
from it.
I'm acclimatized, but I'm a zombie.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, for sure. Hard Rock is on the cards. I know. Such a
Oh,
cool
I would
race.
love
Maybe
to
we'll get in the
see.
same time.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, that'd be so much fun. Well,
Yeah.
if you ever get in, I'll be there for moral support. That's about all I can offer
Sure.
you. But
That'll be
um, I
awesome.
would love to see you tackle one of those mountain races because I feel like, you do so well at the runnable races, but you also have this whole other side to you that's way more of the just like pure mountain adventure, like we were talking about. So
Cool.
I have my fingers crossed for you.
Oh, and maybe here.
Yeah, I know, right? We'll both be watching that lottery day.
Yeah. That'll be awesome. Yeah.
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 Oh, well, thanks so much for coming on the pod and taking the time to chat with us. It's such a pleasure, Em. I just love you. I love your approach to life. I love seeing you grow in the sport. You just seem to get stronger and stronger, but you do it in a way that really like brings other people in. And I just, yeah, I'm excited for what you do next, whatever adventure that is.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And I've been thinking about this so much. It's really, really special because all the things you just said, like we have lots of people that do that in our community. I think we're super, super lucky to
Yeah, we
have
really are.
such incredible people. as part of the sport and leading the sport. And it's really, really cool. And thanks to you ladies for doing your podcast, and we get to share more time like this and get to hear lots of people's stories. So it's really, really fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Love you.
Love you.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Trail Network podcast today. This episode has been brought to you by Osprey and edited by Sandy Boy Productions. We absolutely love feedback, and we would love to hear what you thought. You can drop us a message through our Instagram at the Trail Network Pod, and you can also find this episode and our previous episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Until next time.